I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. I hope everybody's having a good Monday. Been an interesting weekend. We had a tough loss, travel on the road. We're back. We'll have our coverage, our updates, our highlights. We'll be dumping that throughout the week on socials at Verdin Verdict. Got our usual Monday SEC grades. We're going to have a couple of notes about the AP poll that dropped yesterday. And then we're going to just talk about LSU, their college football playoff hopes, if they're still going to be available. Without further ado, hit the like button on the stream, hit the subscribe button, make sure to comment throughout the stream if you got any questions, concerns, anything. We'll get to it. First things first, let's go F to A. Let's go in worst to best, if you will. Mizzou, I'm giving them the F. I don't know what is happening. Straight up, what the hell happened, Mizzou? You were supposed to be one of the more prevalent offensive teams. I mean, we started covering this game, like our biggest takeaway was it was two potential potent offenses, right? Wasn't at all. Mizzou couldn't get anything going. Pass game was horrible. Brady Cook's banged up. It looks like he could probably miss some time going forward. Only 70 passing yards. Their run game was the only hope. It's going to be a long year if it keeps looking like this. I think Mizzou, they miss Blake Baker. Simply put, 34-0 against Bama. Horrible. What a win for them, too. I mean, Alabama's about to come into Tiger Stadium in 2 weeks. They might be hitting their stride. Sure, they lost to Vandy. Sure, they lost to Tennessee. Putting together a performance like that right before you play one of your biggest games against one of your biggest rivals in a primetime slot in a tough environment could be tough. Speaking of tough environments, LSU, they fell apart in the second half straight up. I'm giving them the D for this week. D grade LSU. Could rebound and bounce back. They could, go into this bye week, recover, get rejuvenated, and then move into Alabama and have some momentum and potentially, clean up the errors that are happening. Run defense looked great against Arkansas and looked horrible against A&M. So that's another inconsistency that you're going to have to fix. Here's another thing. Mobile quarterback is going to be interesting. Marcel Reed gets put in at halftime. Believe he has 2 passing attempts the entire second half. They wind up running all over LSU. Jalen Milroe's been watching. I'm sure all week it'll be talked about greatly in that LSU locker room that they're going to have to address that. I mean, simply put, if Jalen Milroe can get any type of production going like he's been able to in the past, especially last season, when these two teams matched up, it could be a very, very tough situation. But we'll break that down a little bit more when we talk about LSU and their potential CFP implications. C for the week, Vandy. Hell of an effort. I know they lost. People might be confused. Why are they getting a C? I think they're America's team right now. 18-point spread. They balled. They covered. Kind of helped us out with our picks that we were getting murked on in the top 3 segment on last Friday. They had a lot of turnovers. I think they need to clean it up. If you don't turn the ball over 3 times, you might not lose by 3. It'll be an interesting matchup when they come to LSU. I think a lot of people were underestimating them. I think a lot of people thought Vandy would be a quick 30 ball. And you might be in for an interesting 1 to 2 possession game. Hopefully LSU doesn't lay a goose egg like Alabama did. Speaking of Bama, speak of the devil, if you will. I'll give them a B. They smush Mizzou. On the right track after the tough losses to Vandy and Tennessee. But if they lose to LSU, I can see them dropping out of this entire college football playoff race, the entire SEC race. This would be your 3rd loss. It would be all in conference. It would be really tough to mount a comeback, especially at that point in the year. You really don't have much time left. So Bama, they do theoretically control their own destiny. But there's no room for error. That margin is very, very thin. About as thin as LSU's margin, unfortunately. Who are we going to give the A to? We got to give it to A&M. Got to give credit where credit's due. They're the number 1 team in the SEC. They're undefeated. They came back, got the job done despite going down about 2 possessions on the road. At home. Marcel Reed, though, I think he's the guy now. I think Weigman officially lost that job. Yeah, Elko was pumping in confidence and saying they believe in their guy and they're going to keep rolling and riding with him. It's just not going to be able to pan out. That run game was elite. If somehow, some way you get some passing game incorporated into this could be a crazy, crazy situation for Texas A&M going forward. Yeah, they still play Texas. They still have an opportunity to get a loss on that record. But you have none right now. And with that being said, you could be feeling pretty confident about a playoff bid. Mike Elko, in his first year, turned a lot of heads. Turned mine for sure. I didn't expect LSU to perform the way they did. I thought it would be close. Thought LSU was going to be able to walk out of there. It wasn't close, and LSU did not walk out of there. Neither were true. Real quick, before we move into our AP poll reaction, Shout out Happy Dad. You know the deal. Best tasting hard seltzer on the market. Low in sugar, gluten-free, no artificial flavors. You know where to get it, too. You're grocery shopping. You're at Albertsons. You're at Rouse's. You're at Walmart. Go stock up. Go get the best cans. Discount code in the description. 15% off with code Verdin15. Go get your merch. Go get suited up with Happy Dad. AP poll drops. Now we're in the thick part of the schedule. Now you're in the part of college football or the college football season where if you make a mistake, it's almost all but over. I can't lie. The AP poll is being a little interesting. You know, they're being a little friendly to some teams, not so friendly to others. They were pretty friendly to LSU. They only dropped 8 spots to number 16. I'm surprised. I expected that to be a little lower. They're only 2 spots under the team that beat them. In terms of A&M being 14 last week, A&M jumps to 10 this week. It's an interesting move. I thought, once again, they would move a little higher. Mizzou clinging on to dear life. They're number 25. I don't understand how Mizzou kept that ranking. I would throw Vandy at 25 over Mizzou, even though obviously both teams lost. One of them put up a way better fight comparatively to the team that had 0 points. Neither here nor there. Shout out Tulane and ULL getting votes. They are not in the conversation of the top 25, but they're right on the fringe. I think Tulane probably has your best shot at getting in. They're going to have to keep, trying to somehow, some way stack days and avoid going down the slope that LSU went down last week in terms of shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, you had it. You had your fate in your own hands, if you will. I think the Alabama game, yeah, it's a big test. Yeah, it's an opportunity to really turn some heads. It's an opportunity to kind of show that you're still here, that you're not going to get pushed around. You're not going to fizzle out. I'm just wondering. I'm wondering about a couple things. Here's a couple of questions we have. First things first, is Nussmeier banged up? This has been something I've been pondering for a little bit, and we'll have some clips for Wednesday and Friday. But I think there could be some conversation to be had on him potentially be banging up, potentially maybe an Arkansas game. It looked like he was limping a little bit during that contest. Obviously, he's good for A&M, but then he gets hit, and there was a couple times he was slow to get up, and it looks like he's just gingerly favoring his lower leg. I'm not exactly sure what leg it is. It was just a couple moments during that game where I was like, man, he doesn't look 100%. And with that being said, it's one of the biggest problems LSU could ask for. I mean, the injuries have been horrible for LSU, if you ask me. You lose a lot of key pieces. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Harold Perkins, Jacoby and Guillory, John Emery, C.J. Daniels is banked up again. Chris Hilton finally debuted last week. But now, if you don't have your starting quarterback at 100%, this could make this final push that much harder. I mean, we've seen what happened when Jaden Daniels had to play hurt through the SEC push, and it fizzled out. It's tough, especially, at the quarterback spot, especially when you're the leader of the offense. If you're not ready, if you're not 100%, it's kind of going to, not be contagious, but your team morale changes. The team's confident, and they go through with the way the quarterback's feeling, with the way that the momentum is going. And I mean, if the whole entire team's a little nervous, like, man, he's not 100%, he might be banged up, this, that, or the other, it could change the way the team plays against Alabama. I think it'll be tough to get in the college football playoff, hypothetically. Now, you need other things to happen besides you simply winning out. You don't control your fate. You're going to have to wait on a Tennessee to lose. You're going to have to wait on a situation like that. Maybe you beating Alabama could somehow, some way make it that much more possible, make it that much more realistic. But after losing to A&M and dropping the season opener, you're about at the point you've been the last few years. In the last few years, it didn't get done. Last year, you were 13. The first year, you would have been able to be in the top 12. But even if you get in the top 12, even if somehow, somewhere you find a vote, I just really wonder how far LSU can go, because there seems like there's a couple of glaring issues that they're going to have to address. The running game is one of the biggest. The running game is why the offense was kind of in that situation, if you ask me, against A&M, and honestly in other parts of the season. But you can't have Nussmeier sitting in the pocket, constantly having to sling the pass, constantly having to just be predictable, if you will. I mean, there was 24 yards gained through the ground on Saturday. You're not going to be able to get it done with that. You're not going to be able to have an efficient offense that can score enough points and keep people guessing. I mean, everybody knew that the ball was in the air, and that played a big part into getting the 3 interceptions. And some of the passes, obviously, you wish you had back. Obviously, could have been made better. But my point being, the defense knew the spot LSU was in, playing from behind, having to make something happen. And it just started all adding up. And I think going forward, the run game has to be addressed. I mean, look, before the season started, we had a little conversation, preseason questions. What do we want to see LSU improve on? And we made the comment that the run game had to, they had to flex their muscles. Jaden Daniels was honestly, your leading rusher, your predominant rusher for LSU over the last 2 years. You lose him, and they're going to have to find someone to carry that rock. We thought it would, be a Josh Williams. We thought it would be a Caleb Jackson. They're taking a little bit longer to get into their stride than we had previously expected. But you're in a spot now where you need it. You need it more than ever. It has to happen. I could see 4 SEC teams getting in, but right now you're number 5. And the only way you climb in and get to number 4 is if you win against Alabama, and I honestly think you're still going to need a team like Tennessee to drop one. I'm not going to lie. It's one of those moments where it's just like you kind of wish that LSU was how do I put this? You kind of wish that you had this year's defense with last year, because it seemed like the most likely moment for LSU to really make a push, the most likely moment for LSU to really be playoff bound was with that explosive offense, was with that the perfect, three-headed monster you had with Daniels, with Neighbors, with Thomas. I think this year they're having a little bit of growing pains, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to figure it out. I think if they were going to be able to figure out, we would have already seen it. You wouldn't have lost to a USC. You wouldn't have been down the whole game to an Ole Miss. You wouldn't have started 17-0 against South Carolina. There's a lot of moments this year where LSU made you hold your breath. And with that being said, I'm just not sure. I'm not that sure that they're going to be able to take a playoff opportunity and run with it and actually do something with it. I mean, like I said, you've got a lot of glaring issues that you're going to have to fix right now. The defense was looking great. I mean, you have your moments. The first half, you got their quarterback pulled. So the defense obviously, is on the right path, obviously showing great improvement, complete 180. You're just going to have to, address the problems in the run game. You're going to have to address spy issues. You're going to have to try to keep that quarterback contained going forward, because this test that's coming is probably one of your toughest ones. Was Jackson Dart tough? Was Ole Miss offense explosive? Of course. I don't think they're on the level of an Alabama who beat Georgia, who is the number 2 team in the country. I mean, we got to talk about levels here, right? I mean, Alabama's probably number 3 in the SEC. You're in a bit of a bind here if you lose this one. If you lose this one, I think you're packing it up. I think you could be in for a long haul. If you win it, it's not over yet. Simply put, you go on the road to Florida. You play Vandy. You close out against Oklahoma. I mean, it seems like LSU is in a bit of a spot where Nussmeier could be thinking about coming back next year. If I was him, I would heavily consider it. I mean, it's nothing wrong with, taking that shot, coming back, trying to develop, trying to grow, trying to become a better quarterback. However, this quarterback class could be a little thin. It could be a perfect opportunity. He's had a good statistical year. There's a couple of issues. There's a couple of, bad passes, turnovers, this, that, or the third. I think it's all going to be contingent on, what's going on with the limp, if you will. If he's hurt, if he has to take some time off potentially, if he misses any game this season, I think he's going to come back. It's just my take. I think, it might be best in his situation. You got the eligibility, why not use it? Yeah, Bryce Underwood's coming, but you don't hurt by having a talented true freshman quarterback sit and learn. It's never bad. I don't think it would deter anything. I think Bryce seems pretty locked into the school. At this point, you just got to make the decision that's best for the team and what's going to push him forward to national championship contention. And if Garrett Nussmeier came back, it would probably be one of the biggest helpers for that, because if you have all these departures, you lose Nuss, Kyron, Mason, you lose Will, Emery, you're going to be losing a lot of pieces, probably a Major Burns, maybe a Harold Perkins, maybe a Greg Penn. It could be a tough phase for LSU. I think one of the best things they can hope for, one of the best things they can do, have a good end of the season. If they win out, you might be able to get voted in. I think, it's a 50-50 shot, and coin flips more often than not aren't really going to go in your favor. You should have, Obviously got it done when you had the opportunity. You couldn't. You didn't. Now you're in a spot where we really get to see what they're made of. Are they ready? Are they going to be able to turn it around in the face of adversity? It all starts LSU and Alabama. They do get a bye week, though. Hopefully, if anybody is hurt, if anybody is banged up, they get it addressed. They work on it. And, you watch film and improve from what happened Saturday, because it was right there. It was right there for the taking, and then it just fizzled out. And now it has you left with a lot of questions, if you will. Wednesday, we'll be covering, we'll be doing the Heisman Watch. Brian Kelly will have a presser tomorrow where hopefully we'll get some more insight on a potential injury report, just some more questions regarding C.J. Daniels, Garrett Dellinger, Garrett Nussmeier, a lot of big names. A lot of big injuries, a lot of big moments, if you will, for this week to cover. We'll be there Wednesday at 1. Hit the like button on the stream. Y'all have a good one.